Hey, what's up? I want to talk about grinds today, and I'm going to kind of roll this video into that tire reflection video that I've been wanting to do. And if I sound like a crazy person, if you haven't checked out the channel, we did a bunch of tire cuts where we just cut the sidewall of some old tires out. And not scientific at all. I'm not claiming any science to that testing, because some tires were thicker, some were thinner, some were older, some were a little newer. Still, none of the tires were like less than they'd been sitting outside for more than a year. I sharpen by hand, so all my edge angles are not the same. But anyways, what we did is we tested a bunch of different blade steels, and we tested blade grinds and stuff like that, and I think I got my point across. Now, I'm not saying that the tire cut videos are done, but I think I'm pretty satisfied with the results so far, for illustration purposes, to show grinds and coatings and stuff like that, and why all that stuff is so important when you're going to check out a knife, and your uses and all that, and kind of what I'm about. Kind of want to share what I know, and if I can show you guys that in a video, I'm going to do that. And okay, so the very best one in that tire cut, I think, was this S90V Millie. It just did awesome, and I knew it was going to do awesome just because of how great of a slicer it is. And it did. It push cut that tire, which blew me away. And then we tested the serrated edge version, and did awesome. And it did do exactly how I thought. It plunged in really nice, and on the in stroke it was acting kind of like a saw, and then the out stroke we kind of sawed around it, which is not how I normally use serrated edges, but when you're cutting something that thick, it just kind of worked better using it like a saw. And you can see I did another video about serrations, about how when you cut cardboard and stuff, you just use it like a normal knife. But I mean, we're not going to go into that right now. So yeah, they both did awesome due to the full flat grind and the edge profile that I've set on this, which is laid pretty far back. And next we have the Manix 2 with the Sprint Run CTS XHP. That's a powdered steel made by Carpenter, and it's basically the stainless version of D2. I believe it's powdered. It may not be a powdered steel. I need to go back and look at some of the specs on it. So yeah, this did awesome too, and this did push cut that tire to some degree. Just for fun, I left the factory edge on this, so we're going to go back and do another test of this when I polish up this edge. But just to be quite frank, it doesn't need it yet. I've been using it quite a bit. You can see the G10's pretty dirty, and you can see it's starting to take on its worn in, like broken texture here. When you first get G10, I'm sure that it's really grippy at first, and then that grippiness kind of fades away, and then it kind of stays this same kind of, it's still really grippy, but it kind of is a little, not as grippy as when you got it brand new. That's kind of the texture it's got now. So, yeah, I've been using it, and it hasn't needed anything more than a couple strops and maybe a touch-up on the ultra-fine stone at the very edge. So we're going to redo that video with a polished edge, so that way we can test same steel, same knife, coarse edge, because, Spyderco grinds on a belt, versus real fine polished edge. So it'll be kind of fun to see if there's any difference between that. And we did the ZDP Stretch 2, and it's kind of dirty. It was in my pocket yesterday, matter of fact. And you can see it's got a polished edge on it. Did very well for your puncture to go into that thicker tire. Very nice, very thick. Not thick, just kind of a very pointy tip. But it's pointy, but the way that this kind of leaves this bump on here, it's still robust. You wouldn't want to pry with it, but it's not very delicate. Not saying that the military is delicate, but you can kind of see that sail left a little bit of beefiness up there on that tip. So it's still pierced good, not as good as the military. As I'm saying, overall, piercing, cutting, everything military just kicked major ass. It did really well. And so these are all full flat grinds so far. This is a full flat ZDP Endura 4. This did awesome too. Almost just as well, excuse me, as this. Just not quite as good in the piercing department. And I think that we did get this to push cut that tire also. So it's kind of what you're looking for in a knife. If you want something that's going to pierce real thick material, maybe even self-defense, God forbid, and you're buying a knife for that purpose, you may want to look for something real pointy. And I don't know if that's a big enough difference to really make a knife decision on. Is that point? Because honestly, if you were going to stab somebody, this knife would work just as well as this. I mean, just being real honest. And so let's get into the different grinds. This is kind of a full flat grind, but I'm leaving it a little separate because the blade was thicker on this. And technically, it's a real high saber grind, but you can see it's almost flat, full flat. But that edge shoulder is way up here. So yeah, you could pretty much call it a full flat. It did well, but the blade cutting edge kind of hindered any kind of sawing motion, you know. So just a smaller knife as far as cutting edge. Did really well. The one thing, this did kind of get to my thumb. I didn't really say anything in the video. This jimping is fine up here, but this jimping on the back is almost razor. Like, I'll just do this for a second. See my thumb? And this video is in HD, so you can check this out. Hopefully you can see what I see. That's a pretty big hot spot if you're not wearing gloves. But I was choked up most of the video like this. So yeah, it did pretty good with the reprofiled edge. And then we had the Saber Grind ZDP Endura 4 with the teeth. And it did awesome. The teeth just kind of ripped it apart like a saw, just like the other one. Little more resistance due to the Saber Grind versus the flat. So, if that matters. Of course, my camera's not cooperating. So yeah, it kind of caught up on these shoulders just a little bit. So, I think this did a little better than that. Okay. And this you could put in with the full flat too. But I left it separate to show you that the coating kind of hindered the cutting and the small edge length. It did get through the tire, so I mean it did do the job and got in there and did it just fine. It's still pretty sharp. I haven't touched it up. It's not catching on my nail like it used to. But of course 1095, this will touch up very fast. Okay, so the hollow grinds, and I'm gonna have to do another video on illustrating why the hollow grind did not do as well as I thought. Because honestly, when I went into the test, I thought that these hollow grinds, these are basically the same thing, just the Umnum has a little thicker blade. I really thought the hollow grinds were going to do the best. Honestly, I really did. But they did not. The full flats did the best. And I think it's just because some of the material binded up on the shoulders. And much like the Hinder got the job done. Of course, I have the edge reprofiled here. But the tire did kind of catch on these shoulders. And the blade is a little thick. So I kind of knew this was going to be our worst cutter in the series. But still got in there, got the job done. Just a little bit more resistance than the other ones tested. So all in all, very impressed. Very, very impressed with Spyderco's full flat grinds. And I can't say enough. Run out and get a military if you do not have one. They are awesome. Hey guys, thanks a lot. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your time. And have a great day. We'll catch you later.